All right, Nerd and Byrd. I think this
What's
is episode
up?
15.
Is it really?
Yeah. And it's like this so for those of you who don't know, episode 15 is all about Jason Mitchell, who is the #1 real estate agent and team in the world.
Not world, America. He's the #1 real estate team in America.
That's pretty baller.
Yeah.
I mean,
33 different states.
Yeah.
And it's his story, which I'm sure, when we get into it, we'll interview him. But I first met him from the Modern Real Estate Summit, which we would always do with the Modern Mortgage Summit. And he was like the closer that would come in and speak because he is just typical,
he's to the
like
point.
direct.
Yeah. No, but I think that is what's so refreshing about him is when we used to do open house crashing. Do you remember that?
Yes. Oh, do I remember that? Here I was, guys, a middle school science teacher. I get in, my sister's like, "Oh, have you ever thought about getting into mortgages?" And I'm like, "No, I haven't." And I remember the first week you were like, "All right, so every weekend you're open house crashing."
Yeah. So open house crashing for loan officers means that you go into 5 open houses a weekend because you're trying to build your real estate agent roster up. So you got to get in front of real estate agents. And the best way to get in front of real estate agents is to go to open houses because they're stuck there and you can talk with them and build rapport. And so our mission was to go to 5 every single weekend. But it's when he talks about open houses, and it makes me think of when we did that, every realtor sounded and looked like the same. That house that they listed is fantastic. It's priced right. It's the best house on the market for the neighborhood. Like they all say the same thing. But Jason,
of course, because you're trying to sell the home.
I know, but that's where I think Jason's a little bit different. Yeah. Is he's always going to keep it real and shoot it to you straight. So
well, and sometimes saying something that's not expected then becomes memorable, and it's like, wait a minute, did he just
like what? Give us an example.
I do it all the time to say the
I know yeah,
but just like that, this house is not a good buy. Like I would go to the one down the street, or
like from an interest rate standpoint, is because I just posted about this is that lower interest rate is going to end up costing you more money.
Yeah, it's a paradigm. It's a pattern interrupt for people to be like, wait, what?
Because how would the lower interest rate? Yeah. And then when you can back it up with facts, it's like, oh, well, because the break-even point is far more than 2 years. And right now, statistics shows people are only going to be in their mortgage for a couple of years before they refinance. So actually bringing that $7,000 for that 5.99% rate may look and sound better, but from a financial standpoint and break-even standpoint, you overpaid by $2,300. Just sounds crazy. So I think what people want is they want Jason Mitchell. Let's bring him on without further ado. All right, well, we will get right into it. I know you are a busy man. And for those of you guys tuning in, I had mentioned that I went to the Modern Mortgage Summit and was able to chat with Jason. And it was kind of funny chatting with you behind the scenes. Your nickname was 2%. I don't remember why we were calling.
It was the milk, right? Wasn't it?
I was last. I was in the back.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's right. But no, I've just been so pumped after rewatching it and hearing you there. And our local real estate agents, we're always looking to mastermind, and we have a mindset of abundance versus scarcity. And so I told them all about you, and you are the #1 real estate team in the world. So it truly is a gift for you to spend your time with us. And Deborah, if you didn't have anything else to say, I was going to just jump right into it. Did you want to add anything?
I believe you're in 22 states across the U.S. Is that correct, Jason?
33.
Oh, 33. Wow. And I read on your website that 90% of your business comes from referrals and a lot of trusted partners. Is that still the case, you'd say?
Yeah, for sure. We receive about 70,000 referrals a year from our partners across the country. And so when we receive referrals, depending on the location, the geo, our mission control team will take the opportunity and then ship it to that marketplace, that market center. But yeah, I think there's about 105 MSAs in all 33 states right now.
Wow. And then I know you're super competitive, but he also was awarded from Arizona Most Influential Millennial, which is super exciting.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so
I like it. All right. Well, let's jump into this. When did you, just for the audience to give them perspective on, we're in a crazy market, which is what everybody's talking about, but when did you get into real estate? Just sole agent? What year was that around? What was the market like? And then we'll kind of compare it to the market today.
Yeah, sure. So I started out as an intern at Pulte Homes in 2002, summer 2002. And there were about 900 students from University of Michigan, Michigan State, and Central Michigan that applied. I was lucky. One of my fraternity brothers had started there the year prior, so I kind of had an in. So I got that. So there were 4 of those, and one of those, me, got the full-time gig coming out of school. You know, at the time, the market was very, very hot, and actually it was hot in Detroit too. At the time, I'm from Detroit. And so it was a very coveted role to get. And so I went back to college that semester to finish up, knowing I had the job waiting for me. And that's when I started my career. So I started as new construction sales. I was fortunate enough, I was put in a couple good communities. So out of about 3,000 salespeople at Pulte, I was the #1 sales rep for 3 years in a row. I came out to Arizona to run a Central Southeast division for them when I was 24. And then I worked out here for about a year and went on my own after that year to really just get into regular residential resale. So that was in 2000 and I want to say end of 2006, beginning of 7. And did that. Did well. I had a lot of investors that I met at Pulte, so I had a good little book. And you know, at the time, Maricopa County in Arizona was hot, and so we were selling a ton of real estate. And then I started a finance company that you know, I noticed at the time, and ironically enough, you know, at that time, you actually didn't have to have a license to do mortgages. And people say that's crazy, but truly, in 2007, you didn't need a license to do a mortgage. That's crazy, wow. Right? But it's true. And so it was very easy. And so we were just brokering. And then, you know, me being me, I grew that. And so we had a lot of LOs. I had probably 150 LOs and doing a lot of business. And I took, at the right time, timing was great, an offer from a company in New York City. So I then went and had to go earn my earnout for them for about 18 months. And so I ran their secondaries. And then the market crashed, everything hit. I lost everything. I had like 50 houses that I was renting out. You know, my goal was when I made that money, you know, just to invest in real estate. But when your tenants aren't paying the mortgage, all of a sudden, you know, you got 45, 50 houses and those mortgage payments are 350, 400 grand a month. You can lose a lot of money very quickly. And so I lost everything that I had and built. And then in mid 2010, I got back into residential real estate. I didn't have a client, couldn't find a house. I mean, every home was vacant. And so those were the days of, you know, people think it's tough when interest rates get to 6.5%. What's tough is when every single home on the market is owned by a bank. Good luck convincing somebody that now's the time to buy when every home on the market is basically listed and it's vacant. So very hard time. But we built it. And then, you know, the extent from 2011 to today is just a continuous story of me building my own career. Became the #1 real estate agent in Arizona in 2015. 2015, 16, 17, and 18, I was the #1 agent in Arizona. I was doing about 160 million a year in personal production. While I was doing that, I was growing the team locally. And then, you know, what I noticed when I was in the field, because I had a couple referral partners, my first one being Rocket, where I was getting referrals from them, from their pre-qualified clients. And what I thought to myself was, this has to be the future of what real estate's going to look like, because as these major organizations are owning the consumer from their ad spends and from their large budgets, those companies are going to control the funnel. And so I bet everything I had on that. You know, I invested heavily in technology, heavily in distribution, and it was a gamble. And then I said, well, I'm getting a lot of referrals in Phoenix. Can I take our market and scale it in other parts of the country? And that's what makes JMG unique, is that we're a centralized platform in all the markets that we service. And so it doesn't matter if you're in Miami or Seattle, everything is the same, everything's identical, and they all work off the same platform. And that's what our partners like, because it's very easy for them to plug into us for distribution. And so today we have probably about 50 total partners. We got about 8 that we consider our top tier partners. And yeah, you know, this year we'll distribute about 40 billion in referrals to our agents across the country. So our average agent closes an extra, call it 32. You know, we only have about 400 agents on our, what we call network certified. So we should do around 9 to 10,000 transactions this year for about 5 billion in sales. And 90% of that's from the partnerships that drive referrals. But the good thing about our agents are, you know, our agents close a lot of extra business because we're providing them with a lot of referrals. We're not greedy on their self-gen book either. You know, our agents are 80-20 on their self-gen, and then they're 50-50 on the referrals we send. And when you can close an extra 30 plus transactions a year and build that book, your sphere now becomes greater with your past clients, who then can help you close more self-generated business. And so it's a really good circle that we've created for our agents and servicing our clients as well. So yeah, I'm proud of it. It's kind of taken on a thing of its own at this point, but it's yeah, it's interesting to see where it's gone.
And so in the market that we're in right now with 2023, and obviously listings and inventory being low, because I think there's over 60% of people have a mortgage rate under 4%. So there's not a lot of people lining up to sell their house to double their interest rate. What strategy or tip do you have for the agent right now that, how can they get clients right now? Would you suggest leveraging partners?
Well, you know, for me, it's all right now, it's focusing on buy side opportunity with a lot of first time home buyers, and also the buyers that you've had over the past 2 years that were trying to get into properties, but they simply couldn't because they were getting outbid. You know, for 2 years during the pandemic, you had a great qualified buyer, 10% down, high credit score, totally approved. But the problem was they were competing against people that are putting 50% down or cash buyers. And so, you know, you're looking at 20 offers, then 15 offers, and then they get buyer fatigue. So they go back to renting. Me, I would focus on the people that, you know, that, and staying in front of those people that were getting booted out of the market, that right now you can go buy. Like, even if you're VA, even if you're zero down, even if whatever, right, we can find you home. We might be able to get you some good concessions too. That's no secret, right? Like, everybody knows that. The question is, what is your cadence to stay in front of those people? Because if you're just randomly calling here and there, that's not a process. So how do you create the process to where it's a constant drip on these people that you had a relationship with, were touring, and not only staying in front of them, but staying in front of their sphere? You know, the buy side right now to me is where it's at. It's hard to get listings right now. And so when it's hard to get listings right now, instead of focusing your efforts on how can I get more listings, look to the opposite of how can I get more buyers? Because we can actually put them in houses. And there's a lot of buyers that are out there. We had a record month in March. We did 709 transactions in March for 360 million, of which about 90+% of that is buy side. The buyers are out there. And so it's about getting in front of those people, to me right now, the marketplace, because here's the deal. A lot of those buyers too may have a home to sell. And if you can find them the right property, it might entice them to want to sell. And the thing about selling right now too is, if you have a buyer that's hot and heavy that can find a home, you can still sell that home quickly. And so if we're focusing on buy side, there are opportunities within that buy side where people would say, you know, if you can get me X, I'll sell my home. Or if you can find me the perfect home, I'll sell my home. The question is, can you find those? Instead of focusing only on listing, let's focus on buy side where opportunities are, because there's also opportunity on list side that comes with that.
Yeah. And I love that. And I think part of that strategy, if, you know, in every market we can learn something, and CRM is such a buzzword, and database, and keeping up with it, keeping up with your database. It's what a lot of people talk about, but it's how intentional and how structured is your database, because you could have all of these buyers in a system, but they're not categorized as, okay, did you mark that person as someone that said, you know what, this market is so bananas, I'm just going to rent for another year until the market cools off? Like, can you easily identify those people right now in your CRM? And for the agents that are on it, just so you guys know, this is interactive. If you guys have questions, just write it right there in the webinar chat. But that's something that I would be dissecting if I was an agent right now, after hearing what you just said, is you probably have a system so dialed in that you could run a report and be like, yep, these are the clients that were ready to buy, but they were FHA or VA or.
Well, you know, and I that is maybe different than what most agents do, but you can still do it in a smaller setting. So for us, we have AI that tells us these are the most probable, these are the probable buy. Then different campaign cadences go out to where our call center is calling on the most probables, and then tech will drip on the rest, because you want to focus your efforts when it comes to resources on those most likely. Now, a lot of people on the call will be like, that sounds great, but I don't have the resources you do. That's fine. I understand that. But you can still hot code. And we always had a world of hot coding. So you got 1, 2, 3. So 1 being the hottest, 3 being the coldest. If every lead you interact with, you hot code that lead and then actually put notes on that initial phone call, where you met them, whatever, and then you just use that spreadsheet to update, you can filter by hot coding. And so every month you should be looking at that list and going through your ones. Do your ones become twos? Your twos can become ones. Your threes can become ones. But the threes really need to be dealt with in a level of email drip and text SMS automation, because those are the coldest ones. So pay attention to the ones and twos. There's no point of calling if you met somebody and then they're telling you they're 8 to 12 months out, there's no reason for you to call them next month, but you can drip on them. But the ones should be 0 to 3 months and the twos should be 3 to 6 months. So I'm staying ahead of those people. And if you're not doing that, there is no way in hell that you remember these discussions that you've had with people, because there's more and more people that should be filling your funnel. And so it's important that, look, if you're not willing to pick up the phone, then you can't be a real estate professional. You can't. If you walk into a car dealership, what do those guys, like, those are the hardest working men and women in the world, car sales. Yeah. They're relentless. And they're trained that when you don't have an up that's there, you hit the phones and they dial you relentlessly. Well, that's the same as we should be doing. You should be dialing. You should be at an open house dialing so you can meet people coming through the door. Look, I built my whole book of business on open houses.
I want to talk about open houses because I feel like when agents reach a certain, it's like you do the open houses when you're new and you work the weekend and you do the Tom Ferry mega houses, but then I think that there's a certain level of success that an agent gets and they stop doing open houses. So like, I want you to go all in right now on open houses and what you're doing and what you think about them.
Look, there's 2 layers to it. When I was building, and it wasn't 2016, 17, 18, I didn't even allow tours to get in the way of my open houses. I scheduled my tours around my open houses if I could in any way possible. So if you wanted to look at a home, you weren't looking at it between 11 and 3. You were looking at it at 9 a.m. or you were looking at it after 3 as much as I could. Then when I got super busy in the field, if I wasn't on a listing appointment or touring, I was at an open house every day still. And the reason that is because you got to go to work every day. And I might as well be at a place that I can, because here's what people don't, I'll tell you this. I dominated an area. This is like a success open house story that anybody can do it if they're willing to do it. There was an area of town called McCormick Ranch that I loved. The price point was phenomenal. It was about $600,000 to $800,000 houses. So there was good turnover, good transactions. And the money was fine. You're making 15 to 20 grand a pop, a lot of density, great area, great visibility. So what I said is, I want to own McCormick Ranch. And every single day I did an open house in McCormick Ranch for a long time, but it took about 6 months, maybe 8 months. I started with 0 listings in McCormick Ranch. What happened was every day my signs were up, and I had about 15 of them, 15 to 20 every day. So it took me an hour to set up my signs. So if I want to open the doors at 10, I need to leave by 9 because I got to get my signs up. But what started happening was, it doesn't happen in the first week or the second week. But after about a month, all of a sudden you're doing an open house. People come in and they say, "Oh, you're Jason Mitchell? I see your signs everywhere." No, you don't see my signs everywhere. You see my signs where you are because you live here. Nobody on the West Side, nobody in the Southeast Valley, nobody there knew who the hell I was. I didn't care. I wanted the people in McCormick Ranch to know who I was. And everybody in McCormick Ranch, because I hit every basic corner every day, started coming in and saying, oh my God, I see your stuff everywhere. No, you don't. You just see where you drive because you live here. And so what ends up happening is all of a sudden people start coming in because they think you're the area expert. And it didn't take that long. They don't know any better. I coupled it with several things. One, a McCormick Ranch newsletter. Every month they got a hard copy newsletter from me. It cost me about $1,200 a month to send to every resident in McCormick Ranch. No problem. I had a lender sponsor it, so it was free. I joined a lot of the community Facebook pages. And then the third most important thing I did is every quarter I did an event in that community, whether it was an ice cream social, I rented horses or ponies for the kids. I always did something that was family oriented, and I always did it on a Saturday. Why a Saturday? Because families don't have shit to do on a Saturday. So when it's 11 or 12 o'clock in the afternoon and they're like, what are we going to do today? They're going to go to the event. So every day I was at an open house with my signs everywhere, and I matched 3 to 4 different events that I did every single month. And the next thing you know, before you know it, I had so many listings and I dueled so many houses. And it was just because I was relentless when it came to being there, because being there is where it really matters. And so open houses work to this day and they'll always work. But it's not just about do people come in the door. It's about building your brand, because you can build your brand for free.
We've got some questions around the open house that says, what times are you doing the open houses, or would you suggest to doing the open houses during the week or on Saturday and Sundays?
Well, I think you need both, but I'll tell you this, the most effective times are during the week. Your ups won't be as many. You won't have as many people, but the ones that come in the door are way more serious than the ones that come in on the weekend. The ones that come in on the weekend are a lot of neighbors, a lot of looky-loos. So you'll get a lot of traffic, but in terms of quality, the person coming in on a Wednesday at 2 p.m. is going to be a higher probability opportunity than those that are coming in on Saturday at 2 p.m. So it's an abundance versus quality game. You don't have to do them every day. What I always say is carve out your schedule and stick to your map. Your map and your calendar will tell you what you need to do. If your calendar says on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, I do open houses, and on Saturdays, just stick to it. You don't need to do them 5 and 6 days a week. If you did an open house 3 days a week, you're doing more. You're essentially, because no one does them. I live on Scottsdale Road. It's the busiest road in all of Arizona. I drive down that road. There's $1 million houses, right? And then there's houses that are 500,000 and 600,000. I barely see signs, and we have 70,000 licensed agents in Maricopa County. And I scratch my head going, what are these people doing? Like you see signs here and there. That thing should be filled with arrows pointing. And it's not, because guess what? People wake up and they're like, go to the office today. I have a meeting for breakfast. I'll go back to the office. They find excuses not to do open houses. If you are in this business and you are not doing open houses, you are losing to others that are. Because guess what? Yes, you're going to have days. You're going to have many days that those people that came in, you're not getting a client. But you can still get all your work done there, and you still help build your brand, because your signage should have your brand everywhere. If you're putting an open house sign up and you work for Remax or you work for EXP and all you see is EXP and you don't have your name prevalent, first, dominant, what are you doing? It's about you. Real estate's about building you, your brand, your name. The brokerage I worked at when I was #1 agent in Arizona, no one even knew who the hell that brokerage was. It was called My Home Group. No one knows. If you're in Arizona, you probably know, but no one knows that brokerage. Nobody. It doesn't matter what flag you have. It's you. You're the brand. People want to work with you. So even if I went to an open house and no one even came in the door, it's still a successful day. I had 4 hours of getting a ton of work done, and I got to build my brand on these busy streets so people saw who I was. That's a win. And it's free.
So I've got I've got a Gen Z rebuttal, and I hear this a lot from these. The average age of a real estate agent in DFW is around 53, 54. And some of the frustrations that we're hearing from them is that these younger real estate agents are coming into the marketplace, 26, 27. They don't even know how to write a contract, and they're stealing our market share, not because they're working their tail off and doing open houses and putting signs and balloons up in the yard at 2 p.m. on a Saturday, but because of social media.
Bullshit.
And they're
such a lazy excuse. That is such a lazy excuse. Like, so you're upset that other people are coming in and doing the things that you're not doing? That's on you. Like, so figure it out and pivot. Look at what we did. Like, it used to be only 15 years ago, you had to come to me first and I would connect you with the lender and I would set you up on search. Now, guess what? You get to search properties as much as you want at home, and 96% of homes that are found first by the consumer because they're online finding their own home. We're no longer the people that find you houses. And any agent that says, I find my clients all their houses, well, no, you don't. They find their houses and say, hey, can we go look at this one tomorrow? That's how it works. Guess what? We can't sit there now and say, oh, I need to build Zillow. You ain't building Zillow. So what we become is our expert negotiators. We become facilitators now, where we used to be the provider of opportunities to view homes because we're the only ones that had access to it. We don't do that part anymore. That's done for us. That's easier. You got to go with the times. You pivot. Anybody that's making excuses that these younger agents are gaining market share because they're utilizing social media, what are they doing that you can't do? Hell, you would argue that if you're a successful 55-year-old real estate professional, that you could have more money in ad spend to create more ads and more social media than these people that are just getting into the business. You're losing and making excuses for yourself. So I don't even want to hear that. That's garbage.
I love that. He also has a coaching program. So like that is I don't subscribe to like the soft coaching. I'd rather have the like kick in the teeth, tough love. If you're, because sometimes in this market when it's tough, I feel like agents, we just came off of 2 years that was like, you stuck a sign in the yard. It was easy. Heck, it was easy for loan officers too. You didn't have to be a mortgage strategist. You didn't have to talk about certain strategies like a 2-1 buy down and whatnot because it was easy. Rates were low and everybody wanted to buy. So I love that you're just coming like hard out of the gate, like stop telling yourself these excuses.
I have a question for Jason. Do you have a book recommendation of learning the art of negotiation or how you could develop those skills? Do you have any recommendations for that for those listening?
Well, the first thing is, look, the world that we live in right now is a lot of teams, and teams are really valuable because if you're on a good team, you can sharpen your saw with a lot of the great agents that are part of that team, role playing and getting together. That's what we do here. I mean, basically JMG is just a big team. That's all we really are, right? Like we're our own company and our own brokerage, but the whole platform was built as a team. And that's why we have awesome team models for team leaders out there too, when they plug into JMG. And as far as books go, I'm not one to tout, but I wrote a book and it's on audio and it's on Amazon. And I think it's like $20, but it goes over, it's called the 40-day blueprint. And essentially it's 8 different segments of what you should be doing that are the critical parts of selling real estate. And so I would definitely encourage that because to me, it goes about mindset in sales. It goes about negotiations. It talks about a variety of different things that you break it down by week. So week 1, you're learning this. Week 2, you're learning that. Week 3, you're learning this. And so it's on audio and it's on hard copy. But I wrote that book because it's not you guys mentioned, the soft coaching. If you want soft coaching, then you're going to be a soft realtor. If you want the real deal and you want to actually be successful and you can take criticism, that's where people shine. There are no pity parties when it comes to real estate. It's too hard. 80% of people don't make it. In fact, I think it's like 86. But if you make it past that first couple of years, then you've done something. But it's now getting to the next level. And if you recall in Vegas, I talked about levels, level 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. You find your way working your way through these levels, and every level comes with its challenges. Like, what do I need to do in this level to get to level 3? What do I need to do in level 3 to get to level 4? And I talk about levels in that book. But look, it's not about somebody being hard on you. It's just about somebody being real with you. And when you have somebody that's real when it talks about the things that you need to be doing to be successful in this business, there are things that successful people do. But when you really break it down, it comes down to one main characteristic. Are you going to outwork everybody else? And I know that's cliche. And I know you hear that, like, you know, be a lion and a herd of sheep and all the bullshit you see on, everyone's a coach nowadays, right? Like, I'm tired of seeing a 26 coach. Like, if you're in your 20s, I don't want to hear you talk about life coaching. Okay. You don't know shit about life when you're 25 years old.
That's what I always say. There's a lot of 18-year-old relationship coaches out there that are 18.
Yeah, I know, right? Like, tell me about my marriage when you're 22, right? Like, thanks a lot. So I don't pay attention to that stuff. But the reality is, in this business, because it's so hard, because there's so many realtors and everybody knows somebody. And now it's harder than ever. That's why we have so many agents coming to JMG, because we have the referrals. We have so many of them that they want a place that they don't have to have an ad spend, that their phone will always ring as long as they're performing. But the other side of it too is you can still win this game with effort. If you discipline yourself to sit those open houses, if you don't have a big ad spend and you sit open houses, you're going to win. I'm telling you. I cannot tell you the domino effect of that in and of itself. Here's my first open house story that led to, and this is 100% true. It was Saturday and I was looking for an open house to sit. I didn't have any listings. It was beginning of 2011. I was just getting back in the business. And so on Saturday, I sit this open house and it was a flip. So I'm sitting there and the owner of the property comes in, younger guy, and we hit it off. Because at the open house, like, I was kind of ahead of the time. Facebook was really kind of just becoming like a thing for real estate. But I was like taking video, and you couldn't even post video at the time. But I was doing things to where I would take a video, I post it to YouTube, I send it to my channels and things like that. And so he showed up, and I'm going above and beyond at this open house, and he saw it. But I also had the open house set up, right? Because I was a master of open houses. I did open houses my whole career at Pulte. So cookies were in the oven and out. Water was there. All the windows were open. The kinesthetics of the house, like, everything of the home was right. TV was on. Could hear people outside. When you go do an open house, you're going to work. So your car better be clean. The house better be open. You better have every light on in the home. The windows better be open. You want that home to be comfortable. So when people come in it, they stay in it. So you can have discussions with them. I walk into open houses and agents don't even have half the lights on in the house. They don't even have water or dessert. Look, I want to put dessert on the kitchen counter. You know why? Not so I gorge on that stuff the whole day. So when people come in and they take a tour of the home and I can talk to them, they grab a cookie or they grab a little bite and they grab, a soda or something so I can engage with them. That's why you do that stuff. Yet I go into the open houses and it's like, 2,800 square feet, master's upstairs. Let me know if you have any questions. And then I leave and I'm like, what are you even doing here? Like, there's an art to doing open houses, right? There really is. So my point is, though, I was just there all the time. And so anyways, I do this open house on a Saturday. The guy comes in and we had a good conversation. So the next day I did the open house. I booked it for Saturday and Sunday. And the listing agent, his name was Greg. I'll never forget it. Said, you can sit it. So Sunday, Tanner, who was the owner of the property, and I remember these names because with Tanner, I ended up doing like 50 million in real estate with the guy. So Tanner comes back on Sunday and I was there and we talked again and he was fixing up some things at the house. I leave and he calls me at 3:00. He says, hey, this property just popped up. It's in Sabino Estates. Can you show it to me? And I said, I can, but I don't want to piss off your agent. He goes, oh, he doesn't work weekends. I said, he doesn't work weekends. He goes, no, we respect that. But if you show it to us and we like it, we'll buy it from you. Fuck yeah. So I show them the house. They end up buying the house. So they bought it for $450,000, which today would be worth like $1.5 million. They bought it for $450,000. They put a couple $100,000 into it. It took me almost 90 days to sell that flip for them. But here's what happened. I was at that open house because that was my only listing. I was at that open house every day I could be there. And a gentleman across the street comes over. His name was Tom Opatz. Tom Opatz comes over and clearly, like, this story is so fresh to me because I tell it a lot because it's the domino effect of what can happen. Tom Opatz comes over and he had a really nice home in the community. And he said, I see the effort you're putting into selling this home. I'm going to pay you full commission. I just want the same level of effort. I said, you got it. 1.1 million. I thought it was a stretch. I sold it in 5 days, and I sold it to one of the people that came into the open house across the street. So I made $66,000. In addition to that, Tom Opatz bought a $4 million home in Pleasanton, which I sent a referral out. There was a blog company back then called Active Rain. I don't know if you guys remember it, but it was like a big place where you would blog, right? Like that was big back then. And this is only 13 years ago. But anyway, I go on Active Rain. Any agents work Pleasanton, California, had an agent raise their hand. So I made 30% on a $4 million sale. So I made another, call it, $30,000 on that one. So that's $100,000. I sold Tanner's. And then another woman called me when I had Tom Opatz's house listed that she wanted to buy it. I was already under contract. She said, well, come take a look at my home. Her name is Julia Bodie. So I went to her house. I listed her home for $1 million, sold her another home for $2 million. All of this discussion that I'm talking, and these led to many other deals. Here's the scoop. If I didn't go to that open house on Saturday, I would have never met Tanner. And I ended up selling Tanner probably 40 or 50 houses that he flipped. So I got both sides. And a lot of from that. The point of the story is this. Had I not shown up, had I not done that open house, I never would have met Tanner. I never would have met Tom. I never would have met Julia. I would have never met people that brought, just from going to that one open house, the domino effect was worth over $100 million in business for me. Yeah. Because I just showed up for work. Like, just show up for work. You don't know who's going to come into the door. When you're at work, develop a relationship with the person. Stop talking about the real estate. People will work with you because they like you. And if you're likable, they're going to attract to you. And also be different. This is what was interesting. As I started doing more and more and more open houses, the art of the open house is this. Give them something no other agent they meet that day is going to give them. And what that is reality. Every agent that walks in an open house talks about that home, like that home is awesome and you're going to love it. And it's valued really well. Like, oh, well, no, actually, it's a very, for the community, it's actually priced really well when the home isn't even close to being priced really well. Tell them that. What I would do, and you got to be careful, it's not the owner, because I got caught one time. It's actually pretty funny. But what I do is I would always say, you know what? After I engage with them, I'd say, look, here's the deal about this home too. It's a nice home, but it's pretty overpriced. And all of a sudden, the person I'm talking to is like, really? Yeah, it's pretty overpriced. There's a couple, if you like this area and this community, I know of a couple better ones that are better value. I don't know if they're a fit for you, but I certainly like to show you those because those are actually more in line with what the market consists of. And then you can actually gauge it better than what you're gauging it on this home. Because quite frankly, I wouldn't buy this home. And guess what happens? They get in the car and they say, I like him because he was the one that was honest with me. Because every other agent handing them a listing sheet, a plain no, as we call it, and they're not creating a relationship. My goal was to get people to leave that house and say, that's the guy I want to work with. He was honest with me. But all I did was say things that were different. But what they felt was they could trust me. And so I positioned myself to be the agent, like the anti-agent. Like, don't buy the, here's the story though. One time I got caught. I didn't know the owners were coming because it wasn't my listing. The owners come in the home. They're just looking around at the open houses. And I say, this home's overpriced. And they got so pissed. They call the agent and they're like, why is the agent sitting in this house telling everybody that my home was overpriced?
Oh my gosh. Wow. I would die. We've got some questions coming in. So Melissa says, you're awesome. How do we get open houses when other listing agents are working their own open houses? What would you do?
Or if they're reluctant to have a new agent work their open house.
Look, here's the deal. It's a matter of how many calls you make. If you carve out your Thursday, because again, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, you got to book it, you got to plan it, you got to, if you're going to do it over the weekend, Thursday, you mark your calendar. For Thursday morning, my goal Thursday morning is I'm going to find an open house to do. If you make enough calls, I promise you will find an open house to do. I promise you. But here's the kicker. Don't make this mistake. If you're going to want, if you want to really master open houses, the key component is this. Don't do open houses all over the place. Don't do an open house in South Dallas and then go do one in Plano, and then go do one, over, towards Fort Worth or whatever. I don't know Dallas, Fort Worth all that well, but like, don't be spread out is the point. Pick the area that you want to focus on and only do your open houses in that area, because then you can create brand awareness. If you're doing an open house in South Dallas and then the next weekend you're in Plano, those people don't see your, like, you're just somebody they pass. Focus on making sure that you're in a specific area to do your open houses, so you can start to build branding around the area of which you really want to service. And also, don't do this. Don't only want to sit $2 and $3 million houses. That's stupid. Especially if you're a newer agent, because if you're a luxury buyer and you walk into an open house and I see you, I know if you're seasoned or not. And I'm going to ask those questions. Like, focus on the 4s, 5s, and 6s. Like, you're not going to be a luxury agent if you're new to the business. So stop trying to be a luxury agent if you're new to the business. You work your way up to that level. But the key component is making sure that you're in an area on when you go do your open houses, that you're focusing on an area to make those calls to see if you can do open houses within that area. Don't bounce around and go all over the place, because it's hard to build your brand because you don't have enough branding to build it where you're spread out so wide. Don't cast a wide net. Be very specific about where you want to sit your open houses, and make sure that when you're dialing agents to sit those open houses, that it's within that area. But I promise you this, if you make enough calls, there's always an open house to sit. Always. You just got to make enough calls to find it. And then what you do is, when you get an agent that says yes, say, by the way, if your owner's cool with it, I'm cool with it. I'll commit to you every weekend till it sells. And then you just make sure you honor that commitment. But now you got a place to hang your flag until that home sells.
Yeah. And by the way, just another thing, Melissa, is if you're able to get that listing and work the open house for that listing agent, providing really good feedback and customer service to the agent would probably build that trust that if they get another one in that area, that you're working the open house. So don't lack on the customer service or the communication back to that agent if you're wanting to get more open houses from them.
Well, here, be more efficient. Create a link. In the link, it has these things. What time did you start the open house? When did it end? How many people came in? Any interested buyers? How many interested buyers? Are there anybody that they should be following up with? How many agents came in the door? So you have this form that you fill out. It takes you 5 minutes. You click submit, and the agent that allowed you to list the home all of a sudden gets this email of the summary of the open house for that day, so they can take it back to their client. I'll tell you what, that agent will allow you to set an open house at any given time. And all it takes is, everybody today could do this. Take 30 minutes out of your day, go to JotForm, sign up for JotForm. I think it's like free basically. And then create a form. And that form now becomes your open house form. So every time you sit an open house, you can deliver that form to an agent and they're going to be like, wow, that was amazing. Do that. You're done.
Yeah.
All right. So switching gears a little bit, I think everybody on this call, open houses, it's not a new thing that we've heard, but I do think that we've gotten a little laxed and maybe lazy with the strategies and making sure that you're leveraging them to the best that you can. Jason, we've got about 20 minutes left. What are your other top 2 strategies? You're an agent, you got open houses down. What would be the other top 2 that you would suggest focusing on?
You got to create channel accounts. Like, the onesie twosies are hard. You got to go out there and build relationships. And so the relationships come from 2 main areas. One, it comes from sphere with influence. So let's talk about that. When you have clients that are directors of organizations, that are managers of organizations, go onto their Facebook page and find all their friends that work with them. And then you start posting the house that you sold for that person that has influence with a picture with them. Had a great experience working with the Jones family. Thank you so much for your trust. Because guess what? If you now are creating the audience that the Jones already has and they work with them and they're thinking about buying or selling, they're going to say, hey, I saw that you bought a home. Yeah, I did. How was your agent? And I'm thinking about selling. Working your way in with organizations through the channels of directors and people of influence at that organization, become a channel account. And then what happens is once you start servicing 3 or 4 people at that organization, you start buying lunch for the whole organization every quarter. You start getting in with the organization. And now you're the preferred real estate professional of that organization. It starts with finding the people of influence within organizations to lead to these channel accounts. And then the second part is finding businesses that have opportunity to work with. So local CPAs, divorce attorneys, people that have apartment complexes. Can you create a real estate rewards program for their tenants? So when they go to buy a home, they're rewarded. And then all of a sudden, now you got that account. Going to companies and creating an HR benefits platform when it comes to real estate rewards for all of their employees. Start thinking out of the box to be transactional through channel accounts and not just finding, one client at a time. Become the preferred agent of resource for a lot of different people or groups that all of a sudden your phone's ringing because you're just the guy or girl that they turn to because that's who everybody else uses. When you get to that world, you don't need to worry about ad spend. You don't need to worry about a lot of things because your phone's just going to ring because you're the person. It takes a little bit of time, but start digging on what you already have to see who can I, in a sense, expose that we have a relationship and have worked together. So everybody that they know now know that you've worked together.
Yep, exactly. And guys, this is what I have talked about over the last year with me and the Mortgage Nerd Group. Leverage the lender. As the loan officer, I see everything on their application as far as if they got divorced, I have to get a divorce decree. I already have the divorce attorney. When they go online, our custom application asks the client, do you have a financial advisor? Yes or no? If yes, they give us that information. If it's a director and we have to verify income and employment and we get the HR person's information, that is one way as a lender that if you're listening to this and you're not working with the Mortgage Nerd Group, I'm just saying you're missing out because and those of you who do, you can call me out. We give you that information every single time we see it on an application, whether they buy today or next year. We're saying, hey, Lindsay, here's this person's CPA. Here's a script that we can do to introduce ourselves. We have a mutual client. I'm sure you're aware that they're buying here in Frisco, Texas. I'd love to connect with you. But where does it go from there? How are you dripping on them from there? How are you scheduling appointments with them, learning how they get clients, how we can, now when I help a client that says that they self-prepare their taxes, how powerful is it that we can say, hey, I saw that you self-prepare your taxes, you own 2 rental properties. Now we can refer the client back to that CPA. And I don't know about you guys, but when it's a give and take relationship, you can get more if you give more. That's my whole philosophy. So I love that you're talking about channels. I call it power partners. And I do think you need different pillars and you have to think strategically of, you've got CPAs are just like us. You eat what you kill. You're straight commission. They have to get clients just like we do. How can we tap into their database? Financial advisors, I had a real estate agent last year close 48 transactions from one financial advisor. One. But we don't think of them as people to tap into. And guess what? The stock market sucks right now. They're getting in front of their clients. If they're a good financial advisor, they're calling their clients to bring them in to do an asset review because it's not doing so hot. If you have a good relationship with a financial advisor and people are deciding I'm going to take my money out and just park it, maybe it's a good time to invest in real estate and buy a second home or buy a VRBO house. Like, I love that you just brought up channels.
Okay, so that was number 1, was your sphere and finding those with influence and really just leveraging their trust. What was number 2?
The channels.
Oh, okay, the organization.
So organizations and then people of influence.
Okay.
We've got a couple of questions, and I know you got a hard stop. So, of course, everybody always asks, what CRM do you use?
Well, we built it, so it's proprietary, but I will tell you that to me, look, it just depends on where you're at in terms of capital, but Salesforce is the best. Like Salesforce, everything now is all integrations and plugins. Like Salesforce has it all. And if you're going to build something, if you need to pick something to build off Salesforce, they're the best. It's no question. I wish I built off Salesforce. We built off Keep, but, in fact, my head of tech is right over here. What's up, Clay? So I love Salesforce, but when I started building it, it was more about creating a distribution platform along with agent tools and resources. And, now it's on a life of its own. There's a lot of good platforms out there. Sync is great, KV Core is great, but it depends on what you want. Like I find it very challenging to look at brokerages nowadays and what they offer, because you got to be at a platform that gives you value. Like if I'm at a brokerage and they say, well, you're responsible for creating your own CRM and your own funnels and your own this and your own that takes a lot of time. Hopefully you have brokerages that you guys are at that provide a lot of great resources and tools so you can just plug in. But a lot of brokerages don't. And today, efficiency is everything. I mean, it is everything. Because if you don't have systems and tools in place that actually help you market, that help you become more efficient with your time, because you got to be fast these days.
Yeah.
If they're not on top of that client, guess what? They're going to Zillow. And if they are on Zillow, Zillow's taking that client from you all day long, because they're going to take that lead. They're going to give it to one of the people on Flex. They're going to close them. They're going to try to use ZHL and all that other stuff, right? Like you got to be fast, because agents are, look, Realtor.com, good. You're going to go down an Op City channel. If you're on Movado, you're going to go to Ojo, right? Like everybody owns the channels now. If you're online and consumers are searching, it's hard to even buy real estate leads, let alone good ones. Like the average Zillow lead today is $750 because they really don't want to sell them. They want everything to be Flex. And so it's hard to find good consumer leads. So you got to be fast and you got to be there and you got to give the support, but you also got to make sure that you have, there's 3 phases of real estate. You got your prospecting phase. So I'm dripping on people that I haven't worked with and staying in front of them. You got your transactional phase, which is making sure they have a great experience when they are working with you. And you have your post-transactional phase. And I talk about this in the book. Those 3 phases are the only 3 phases you need to be worrying about. What am I doing to get more clients? That's prospecting. When they transact with me on the list or buy side, is it a great experience? And can you be efficient with that experience? Meaning, if I got 10 escrows, I better have a process. I always ask this question in the last phase is post-close, making sure after they close, you're staying in front of them, that you're having events, that you're doing these things. Those are the 3 most important phases. And during those phases, certain things have to occur. And I ask the question a lot when I'm on stage. If you got hit with 15 listings today, could you manage those listings? And most agents say no. And that sucks, because what that means is you don't have a system in place. Because ultimately, whether you're doing 2 deals a month or 10 deals a month, you need to, if you don't have it, you need to build it now so you're prepared when it happens. What does that look like? I get a new listing. What do? I give it to my admin, my assistant. She orders a signage. She orders the photos and tours. She orders a lockbox. She pre-lists the property for me. I review it in the end, and then I click go to put it online. Once it's online, then I'm making sure that the feedback requests go to my client every Wednesday. I'm making sure XYZ happens. And then when I go on escrow, what do? My admin then puts it pending. She then opens the escrow with the title company. She then makes sure that the inspections get set. She then makes sure, the protocols are checklist items. That's all they are. So pre-list, list, within a transaction on a listing, you got pre-list, listed, under escrow. Those 3 phases, what do those checkboxes look like? And all you're doing is either you or somebody is checking the boxes to make sure things are moving along efficiently. As you're building that process like we were doing manually, you then look to systems that you can do it virtually, so you can do it from anywhere, right? So now it's even more advanced. You got sheets, you got drives, you got all the shit that we didn't have back in the day. The point is, who's ever in charge of that phase, that person is in charge of that phase. And you have to trust the own process that you created. So for me, what I was doing is, when I got a listing, all I needed to do, once the listing was signed, doc signed. See, I always ran my real estate group because I came from a mortgage background. What really opened my eyes was I was at Pulte. Pulte had their own process. Then I go into regular real estate for a year and a half, 2 years, and we were selling, but a lot of it was investors. Then I went into the finance space. And in the finance space, everything is so systematic. Calyx at the time was kind of new back then, right? But what Point did was everything was checks and balances to submit to DU. And then DU would spit out and approved eligible or not, but it gave me the conditions, and the conditions were the check marks, which the processing team took care of. So we could clear conditions and then try to get a CTC. But what I realized then was everything was so systematic in lending, and real estate was chaos. There was no universal platform of systematizing a transaction. And so that's what I built internally, that, hey, when you hit this phase, this is what you do. When it hits this phase, this is what you do. Like I'll show you. So my processing team, we do 700 deals a month. We have 4 people that process, right? Hold on a second. Say hi, everybody. Good morning. Hi. So that's my processing team, right? Guess what? There's 5 people back there for 700 transactions. You know how most brokerages would need 15 people in their closing department to handle 700 transactions a month. Guess what? They do the same thing every single day. So somebody, whoops, hold on a second. So somebody that opens, they have their checklist. Somebody that takes docs in during the transaction, they have their checklist. Somebody that closes, making sure it's paid out. Everybody has 4 or 5 steps that they do, and they do that 20 times a day. And that's all they do. It's McDonald's, bun, burger, bun, bun, burger, bun, bun, burger, bun. The same person at McDonald's taking your order isn't making your sandwich. The same person making the sandwich isn't bagging it.
Listen, we use that. You got to be team Chick-fil-A. Like
That's her analogy.
My analogy is Chick-fil-A. I'm like, I want to be as efficient as a Chick-fil-A at 12 p.m. Like Chick-fil-A service, their speed kicks McDonald's ass. But so we talk about that all the time, is define and then just freaking systematize it. But you can be quick and still have good service, but it's got to be Chick-fil-A. All right, last question. You've got.
Think about Chipotle. Yeah. The person that heats the burrito and puts the rice on isn't the person that puts the chicken on, which isn't the person that puts the ingredients on, which isn't the person that checks you out. That's why they can turn 200 people in an hour, because it's just an assembly line. I'm from Detroit. Henry Ford invented it, right? When you start thinking about efficiencies, it's making sure, because there's no way you can become efficient. And this is where a lot of team leaders fail. They hire people, but they give them all these tasks to do, and none of them are uniform. And then they say, like, I talk about this in the book as well. You cannot have a field person being an admin person. An admin is an admin. An admin is in the office. A field agent is in the field. A lot of people hire an assistant and they want them to be in the office, but yet still, go to the inspections, or, can you go to this house and open it up for me? Or can you put a lockbox on this home? That does not work. Now, you can have a field agent be a listing agent and a buyer's agent. You can hybrid that. But if you're hiring somebody for the office, it's for the office. And if you're hiring an agent, it's for the field. You cannot mix the two of them.
Got it. So in under 2 minutes, to respect your time, Jason, what would you say to the clients that are, as you're growing, go back years ago, there's a lot of fear with agents when growing a team of like, well, my repeat client, they're going to feel like they were just shifted off to this other buyer's agent. I want to work with Jason. Jason's the one that helped me the first time. I don't want this other person that seems new.
It's all expectation. That's it. I mean, there's ways with everything. The way I pitched it on buy side with my past clients that I'm now giving to my teammates are, hey, look, first of all, as long as you're honest and open with them, they don't care. So what I always say is, look, I'm going to have Alex show you the house. He's available 24/7. If I'm not available, they can show you, which they always showed them. My job is to help you negotiate when you find the right one. When I went on listing appointments, I never, ever showed up to the first listing, meaning if there was an appointment, the first showing, I was never there. The expectation at the listing appointment was, Will is my co-list agent. He will be here on the first showings. If there's value and it seems like there's interest and there's a second showing, I will be there. I will be following up with those agents that show interest. My job is to market this thing. Will's going to be showing the house for the first time, and we'll be providing you with feedback on every single showing that we had. Everyone's afraid that if they say these things, they're not going to get business. I never missed out on one. You know why? Because I just set the expectation of how we're going to work together. This is how I operate. And everyone was cool with it. But here's the kicker. Remember this. It's not what you say, it's when you say it. If I tell you and you call me to go look at a home and I say I'm not available, but my assistant is, you screwed up. If I set the expectation before you call me to go look at a home, and I say, now Alex is available to show you, they're fine with that because I had set the expectation that you can expect this to happen. Same thing with the list side. But if I hit them with that when it becomes time, like if I'm at a listing appointment and I don't tell them that Will's going to be showing the house, and all of a sudden Will goes to show the home and I didn't tell them that, they're going to be like, where's Jason? But if I tell them at the listing appointment, this is how it's going to work, and Will shows up at the house, they're like, that's what I was told was going to happen. It's all about expectation.
Yep. I love it. Well, this has been amazing. Yes. Thank you so much to the agents that are tuning in. We're going to do some banter back and forth after Jason, but I want to respect your time. And I was blown away when I saw you in Vegas and when we chit chatted, but you could just tell that your direct and honest approach. There's no BS. I'm just super grateful for you to pour into our agents here.
And Jason, real quick, how can people get in touch with you if they, want to follow? Is there a social platform that you prefer people to connect with you on, or how could they get in touch with you?
Social media is good. Look, I'm not a popular person, and I don't care. I don't care to be, but like, I don't have a show or anything like that. So it doesn't really matter. I'm a practitioner, but you can go to my Instagram, or if you're interested in learning more about JMG, you can go to joinjmg.com. Not that you need to join JMG, but it at least gives you some background and color on everything that JMG provides. So I'll just put that in there, joinjmg.com. But other than that, yeah, thank you guys. I appreciate it. I love doing this stuff, and I hope we can do more of it.
Yeah, sounds good. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye. All right. So one of the things, I hope you guys all stay on, that was, now you guys know when we were there in Vegas, I mean, he just like hit the stage and he is super real. But that's what I will say, some of the feedback that we get from clients that we talk to is every agent, even on social media, they sound the same. Now's a great time to buy. Oh, the market's phenomenal. Oh, you come into this house, it's the best house. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's like, are you being real with people? Because people can sniff that out.
Mm-hmm. We help people build wealth through real estate. I've never heard an agent or loan officer, for that matter, ever say when it's not a good time to buy real estate. But maybe that's even a great headline and topic to talk about of when is it not, or is it not? Or what are other ways to leverage just your dollars and from an investment side?
Yeah. And the second thing that I really liked, and you guys add your comments here, anything that you guys want, because we can bring them on again. We're starting to do some collaborations together. So any questions that you guys have, drop them in the chat. But one of the things that I thought was super meaningful that we didn't touch on until the very end was setting the expectations. Mm-hmm. And it's as little as even the open houses, because I know we talked a lot about that. But if you got hired to do the listing and you have a team member or somebody else is going to do the open house, the number one complaint that we hear on the lending side is, people have the ring alarms and they're like, my agent, Adrienne, I hired her, but Sue is the one that is doing the open house. I don't feel like they knew anything about the home, the age, the square footage, any of the features. And then they see on the ring alarm that they showed up 2 minutes before the open house. Oh, and they've just created like, okay, well, if you show up 2 minutes before the open house, then you're not prepared. And they feel slighted. They feel, because there wasn't proper expectations of this is what open house day looks like. We get started an hour before showtime. An hour before showtime, we're putting signs up. We put an average of 14 to 15 signs up around the neighborhood. This person is going to be the one that's hosting it. We bring cookies, we do coloring chart, like whatever it is. But I feel like we have to go back to setting the expectations of what to expect even in that first appointment. Or if you have a team, explaining how your team works. Mm-hmm. Would you add anything to that?
I think the scary side, thinking about the buy side, since that's what he was saying to really focus on with, and I know he was saying do the open houses every day, but if you're focusing on buyers, I could see from an agent standpoint, you're concerned, especially if you're not using the nerd group, you're dependent on the lender, like speed to prospect. I used to work at a company back when I originated, and I would hear It was a mega superstar agent that still produces today. She's still a superstar in Plano. And she would call in and send over the leads, and the guys were playing ping pong. And I'm like, that agent just gave you a lead of someone who's ready to go, and you guys are still playing ping pong. Like, the speed to lead matters. So I just would really, at a time when every lead and every conversation matters, and this is not a plug for you, but who are you choosing to work with? Like, do you need to upgrade? And
that goes for title,
yes,
lender. That's in one of my emails. It's like, it's 2023. There's so many agents that are in the marketplace now that it's hard. You could lose a client because their cousin got licensed. But I really do feel like you have to set, even us, we look at our realtor roster and it's like, where are we spending our time and resources? I think everybody needs to evaluate that.
Mm-hmm. And it's okay. Like, we have people that come in our lives for different reasons and different seasons. But at this point, to what you said, we do have more licensed agents than we ever have. So it's like, it's going back to the toilet paper example with COVID. If we have one roll of toilet paper and there's now 50 people all going after that one roll, like, you do need to be selfish, and you do need to reflect, where can you improve and grow, but also those around you, because you're the average of, the 5 people that you surround yourself with. So if your lender is only focused on, oh, we have great rates and we close on time, like, that's so rookie league. Like, who is helping you grow your business and putting you in front of people so that you can just move that needle? And sometimes that little bit of a, move can increase your conversion drastically. So I would just say commit. I'm going to say it. Your next 2 deals.
Oh, Lord.
It needs to go to the nerd.
Can we talk about your shirt for a second? I feel like it's super bright. You're ready for Easter. You guys might not be able to see it through the camera, but it's like one of those vests that the people wear at the school, and they're like,
what? You mean like the hazard?
Wait, I want to talk about one. I want to talk about one last thing. So the most recent NAR report came out. Since you're the social media guru, the most recent NAR report came out, and they said that the largest group of home buyers is no longer the millennials. It was the boomers.
So one thing to be really clear on is, when you're looking at data like that, that's always of the past. It's history. It's not what's coming ahead. And so you have to look at context. Let's look at the bigger why behind that data point. To me, logically, of course, it was mostly boomers who were buying last year, because let's look at the market. I mean, in that year, we had never seen in the history of time where interest rates doubled. So just from a home affordability, who could afford to buy and put the large down payments or the above asking offers, or had at least something to sell that they could then roll over to buy, where it was tough for the first-time home buyer. And I still think it's tough from an affordability standpoint. So that's where leveraging programs of, the lender buying down the interest rate or the seller buying down the interest rate, we've got to solve that pain point. But to me, the future is still going to be millennials and Gen Zs.
So you wouldn't divert your marketing campaigns to the boomers?
What I would focus on for boomers is I would look at who has equity and has an interest rate around 4% or higher. Because like we learned yesterday, there's why didn't people refinance if they could have refinanced? And we do have a huge need of people who can't retire, or they're stuck in these homes that have multiple stories, and they're going to need a little bit different marketing messaging of just convenience, because the thought of vacuuming yourself out of a house to list it, like, I would pay more to just not have to do open houses and have it sold right away,
Yeah.
So it's the packing, it's the moving, it's what other things could you offer from a customer service and from your messaging that makes it as convenient and easy as possible for them, while also dangling the carrot of the emotional draw of being closer to family, being closer to grandkids, and maybe buying a home that's multi-generational, where, they may be moving in with their, so we'll make sure mom or dad,
Yeah, no, moving in with you.
Yep.
No, but it's just for those of you who didn't see that, the report came out about baby boomers. A lot of you guys had messaged me. We do offer reverse loan programs. I never, ever, 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 ever call the loan program a reverse loan program. The way that program was set up, was not a great loan program back in the day. And so if you use that word, they're going to associate it with maybe how they think of it back in the day. And so if you ever see me talk about it on social or anything, I call it our seniors home loan. And it is a fantastic loan program. No, the bank doesn't keep the home, but it allows, especially in a marketplace like this, where if you've got grandparents that want to live here, but it's so darn expensive, rather than pay cash for the house, you can use it as a refinance or a purchase. Let's just say from a purchase standpoint, you can help someone buy a home. They put 50% down instead of 100%, which is important because they can take that 50% and now they can keep it invested or keep it in the market or keep it earning interest or just keep it to freaking live for the rest of their life. Because as you get older, your body breaks down, you have more medications, you have crazy psych wards that you have to pay for if you're like our parents. But people think the cost of living is less as you get older, but it actually increases. And so they can put 50% down, and the reverse mortgage allows them to have zero principal and interest payment. Zero. And that's the number one retiree's stressor, is that principal and interest payment. On the flip side, there's a lot of boomers that are in a house that are free and clear that they plan to pass down to their kids or grandkids. But their kids have too much student loan debt or credit card debt, and they are unable to buy that bigger home for themselves because of rates and purchase prices, that if they needed to get a bigger home, they would have to move out of that neighborhood and the outskirts of town because of what's been happening over the last 2 years. And so there is a strategy. It's a delicate one, and you need a mortgage nerd to talk to that boomer. But there is a strategy to say, okay, grandma and grandpa, I know you're in this house and it's free and clear. We could do a reverse mortgage refinance. You still won't have a mortgage payment. You're going to pass the house to your beneficiaries anyway. Let's take 50% of that money and let's just give it to your kids now so that they can buy a house, or they can sell their house and buy the house that fits their family needs without having to move out of this neighborhood that their kiddos go to school with, and the teams and the baseball teams, and keep them in that neighborhood, because grandma and grandpa have about 10 years left to live and they ain't moving from that house. But how can we tap into that equity to pass it on to the beneficiaries, maybe just sooner rather than later? The reality is that boomers are sitting on a crap ton of equity. They don't plan to move, but that doesn't mean that we can't leverage that asset to help their kids buy. But it takes a very professional, empathetic, sensitive conversation, because boomers are wired that it is irresponsible to be in retirement without paying off, without having like no mortgage on your house. You know, they were raised to pay your mortgage off as soon as possible. But yet these millennials have a school of thought of financial leverage. So Kyle, I know you want more training. I'm coming out to your brokerage in a couple of weeks. We are going to talk all things. Tomorrow, I'm sending a video out about assumable mortgages. That was the feedback we got on last week's in-person mastermind, is that you guys want to know more about that. So I'm going to send that out to you guys tomorrow. But real quick on that, if people want you to come do like a team training, or come speak to their broker, how could they get in touch with you to do that? Yes. So
even a social media class, which we could do. Yeah.
Well, I've been doing a lot of in-person broker meetings. So I know I invite you guys in Plano. Kyle drives all the way from Hazlet to come to them. But I've been actually going out to local brokerages and speaking to the agents to talk about really what I talked about in Vegas, about the whole shift and how we need to pivot from not even just a sales and marketing standpoint, but truly from a customer experience standpoint. And we've got all of these technologies, but how are we making them work together? How are we tracking? Just being way more intentional. And so I want to bring that to you guys and to your brokerages. So yeah, you can just shoot me an email, denise@mtgnerdgroup.com. You could still send it to denise@themortgagenerd.com. We still have that email. But I'd love to come out to your brokerage and just, we've got to do it now. Like, this whole generational shift and mindset shift and how people want to be sold to and how people want to be communicated with, we're not spending enough time studying it.
Yeah.
And like, that's all I did for the last 12 months. We recently just actually made a shift in our CRM, which I spent years building, but it's so important to me that everything is speaking and connecting and is intentional. You got to get there. So I would love to do that. Can I take it down now? Are we done? Yeah. All right. Does anybody have a comment about this bright orange shirt here?
Let's see. With the green background, it's like really,
so Melissa says, are there any life insurance agents who understand this in your network, perhaps?
Yes.
Okay, life insurance agents are one of the best referral sources back to realtors. And I swear I give my real estate agents the CPA and financial advisor and I don't know if you guys do anything with it, but you should. But life insurance agents, which group are now the biggest? Baby boomers. Life insurance agents, they are ruthless. They try to talk to about 8 to 10 people a day. They're ruthless with their database. I've got a whole theory on life insurance policy, term, whole, and how you leverage them and all that kind of stuff. That's not what this call is about today. But they're meeting with clients constantly. That is a whole nother pillar of business that you could be getting. But just like anything in life, you have to give to get. And so if you're not delivering value for them, whether that means on an email drips campaign or a once a quarter type thing that you host your own, mastermind or a webinar for their whole database, why can't you be the real estate expert to say, hey, this market's crazy right now. I would love to co-host a webinar for your entire database to talk about what I'm seeing in the marketplace. Y'all should be doing that. Divorce attorneys, CPAs, financial advisors.
It's all the life events. Like
anything.
The 5 Ds that
you're the real estate agent. Like, be the real estate geek and be like, I want to talk to your employees about what's going on with the market. Should I sell it or should I rent it? Should I wait for the rates to come down or should I, you know what I mean? Like, heck, I do it with you. We can do it together. But anyways, it's 11:16. It is Thursday. Tomorrow's Good Friday. And just everybody that tuned in and everyone that gets a copy of this, I want you guys to know from the bottom of my heart that I appreciate you. And I know you guys are working your tail off. And I know that it's hard. Like 2021, I think people look at it and they're like, oh, it was easy. Guys, that was a hard market.
It's a different hard.
I felt like that was hard. And this is just hard on a different level. But I'm grateful for you guys. I'm thankful for you. If you guys want more training, more information, just shoot me an email. Let me know what you guys need more in the marketplace of. But I want to make sure I show up for you and show you guys value and, quite frankly, deliver a client experience that is so great before, during, and after that we get more referrals and can send them back to you. We just sent a referral out yesterday from a client that was referred to us by an agent, but they thought of us before they thought of that agent, and we were able to send it back to them. So thank you guys. Deb's shirt looks red to me. Looks great. You each have your own style.
Thank you.
I don't know. I think maybe if you saw it in person, you'd feel a little bit about what I was feeling, but thank you guys. You guys have a great Thursday. Have a good Friday. If I can do anything for you, just let me know. Take care.